So apparently the world is mad because this dude, Noah Lyles, which I think is an Olympic runner, and he's a runner for the USA, said something about people in the NBA and the NBA championship, This had the NBA on fire, right? Because he basically said, and I quote, I have to watch the NBA finals and they have world champion on their heads, Lyles said. World champion of what? The United States? Don't get me wrong, I love the US at times, but that ain't the world. And then he kept saying, we are the world. We have almost every country out here fighting and thriving and putting on a flag that show that they are represented. There ain't no flags in the NBA, right? He said this at the World Athletics Championship in Hungary on Friday. And in my opinion, I don't understand why he's saying this. Like, the NBA is a league which is situated in America and Canada, right? Because it's really team based. And the whole thing with the NBA is that anyone can get in. Anyone can get in. Like, I'm saying, anyone could get into the NBA, right? Like, the NBA even helps people with their legal work. And the best players in the NBA are from Europe and the world, right? Like, we've had Russian players, Dominican players, we've had Canadian players, we've had European players, like many Balkan players. We've had players from all over the world, right? We have Australians. Like, when you go and you look at the FIBA World Cup, there's at least, I think, one or two NBA players per team, right? For the Bahamas, for everywhere. Now, when you take that into consideration, right? Now you think, okay, so the NBA lets anyone get in, right? As long as you're good enough and you've exposed yourself enough, people get in from all countries of the world, right? And that happens, and everyone knows that it's not just people from America who are getting in, right? It's the entire world who can get into the NBA. So, taking that into consideration and thinking about that the NBA is the most competitive basketball league that exists, are we really gonna downplay that the NBA is not the world championship of basketball? Like, I understand, and yes, it's true. You do not have teams in Europe. You don't have teams in Russia. You don't have teams in Australia. You don't have teams in Antarctica. But do we really need to have teams everywhere for it to be the world championship? Like, I'm sorry, but a world championship means the most competitive championship in the world, right? So that you could see is like the Champions League in football, right? But the Champions League in football is the world championship of football, right? It is. It is. And I'm talking about American, right? Or if you want to talk about the NFL, the world championship, right, is the NFL championship. So for every sport, your best league is the world championship. For hockey, the NHL championship, right? And maybe for sports like running, like swimming, etc., there aren't leagues made for this because they're not team sports. So you get to go and represent yourself as a part of your country, right? Because you don't have to go out there and go be signed to a team, be signed to, no, you're independent. You are you, the country you represent, and your sponsors, and that's it. That's who you are when you do these individual sports, right? And in my opinion, if we really look at where he's coming from, because he's American and everything, right? So he's probably just saying this because he's got something against, I don't know, America or something like that. But I think that he's just saying this because he's probably jealous. You know, like you go out there and you compete, and the NBA is such a popular sport, and you go out there and you compete every day, and you get to see these guys be in one league, be managed by teams, have everything, and I think that it maybe not jealousy, but it probably comes from a place of just not understanding that basketball is more than just a one person sport. So with basketball, you can't play one on one until someone wins. Like, yeah, there are tournaments for that, but nobody wants to see that. People like seeing the complexity of basketball, and basketball has to be played 5 on 5. And that's why we have the NBA. The NBA is the National Basketball Association. You know why it's national? Because every team is in either America or Canada. There's one team in Canada, but every team is American. But the teams are American. The players aren't. If you look at the top 5 players in the NBA, right? Unanimously, that this is most people will tell you these are the top 5 guys, right? When it comes to top 5 guys as of last season, you have Nikola Jokic, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, you have Joel Embiid, right? There you have a champion, a player who's been regarded as the best player in the league for years, and the MVP of the league last season, right? And then the last two, you probably have Steph, KD, Steph, LeBron, right? You have Stephen Curry and another player, or you have Steph and Luka Doncic. That means that there's at least, right, 3 players in the top 5 who are foreign, right? As of last season. And that means that the league is a world championship because Nikola Jokic is from Serbia and he's the world champion because he's competing against the best players in the world. The only thing is that when you don't have the luxury that runners have where they just get to compete directly for their company, it causes them to have to set up a league to be able to play 5 on 5 basketball. So now the fact that the league is situated in America is just because it's convenient. America is big, America has a multitude of cities, America has a good economy, and also the fact that America has the right people to sponsor these programs and make sure that it runs well, right? This is why it's being ran in America. But if the NBA would never exist, there would be another big league like FIBA, like the Canadian leagues, like the Dominican leagues, like the European leagues, which would also host basketball events and would have their own league, which would be team oriented. Obviously, it wouldn't be fun if the NBA was just USA or would be competing for companies. That makes no sense because the USA would rank every single team and there would be no point in playing. If we're being honest, like if it would be the USA and a country-oriented team, that wouldn't work. That works for a World Cup, a World Championship, in the sense of that a once in every 4 years tournament, like the Olympics or like the FIBA tournament, right, where you get to see teams against each other. But when it comes to being the world champion, right, the world champion, the NBA is the world championship as all of its players are from different parts of the world, even if it's predominantly America, because basketball is way too complex to be playing it through countries like an individual sport. Okay, now I'm just going to read some of the replies because this has been too serious. KD said, somebody help this brother. Udonis Haslam said, big fan, but gone with that BS, bra. Hashtag sucker. Draymond said, when being smart goes wrong. Kendrick Perkins said, put his brain in a bird and the bird will start flying backwards. PJ Tucker said, I can't make this stuff up. Aaron Gordon, whatever. I'm smoking Buddy in the 200 meter because he's a runner, right? Austin Rivers said, simply put, the best players in the world play in the league, so winning an NBA championship qualifies as the world champs. I don't know what's more cringe, his comment or his voice and delivery. Facts. Tyler Hero said the NBA is the best league in the world. That's why the champs are the world champs. De'Aaron Fox said, "Why bro care so much? I found it fun that he uses the term 'what hurts me the most'. It's just funny, not that serious, big dog." And Denzel Valentine says, "Boy wants some clout, huh? Jealousy at MF or lol." But yeah, so I thought it was pretty funny, some of the responses. And let me know what you guys think about this.